Welcome to the Word for 2022. Today we're in chapter 22. We're in the final chapter of the book of 1 Kings. In this chapter, Ahab, who is the king of the northern tribes called Israel, approaches Jehoshaphat, who is the king of the southern tribes known as Judah. And Ahab asks Jehoshaphat to go to war with him. Jehoshaphat says, well, since we are brother Israelites, since we're family, we are connected, we first need to go before the Lord and ask His counsel. May I say that that is always the wisest thing that we can ever do. Before any venture we take or any decision we make, we need to go before the Lord and ask what His counsel is. We need God's direction. Well, what did Ahab do? He brought together 400 prophets, 400 experts, if you would, and they all said, go, you will succeed. But Jehoshaphat knows that something is wrong. The worldly counsel that Ahab is getting, something is missing. And so he asks, is there not a prophet of the Lord whom we can inquire of? Well, you know, there will always be those that will tell us what we want to hear, but we need to hear a word from God. Well, Ahab, he does not want to call the true prophet because that prophet, he always told that wicked king not what he wanted to hear, but what the truth was. And so Ahab, he didn't want to bring that prophet before Jehoshaphat. However, Jehoshaphat, he insisted. When Micaiah, the true prophet, was summoned, a messenger came to him and said, look, all the other prophets are predicting success. Why don't you just agree with them? In other words, he was saying, just go with the flow. Can't you just go and get along with everybody else? Go with the program. In other words, don't disagree with them, just conform with what everyone else is saying. The true prophet responded by saying, I can only say what God says. That should be the stance that every Christian should take. There will always be pressure to conform with the world, to compromise what you know is right, to capitulate in order to go along with the crowd. But may I encourage you, even if you are the only one, stand for what God has said. Don't water it down and don't be shy. One way to put it is this. If you're called on to sing a solo, sing out loud. That's what Micaiah did. He told the truth. He spoke the truth of God. Now, Ahab didn't want to hear it. In fact, Ahab rejected it. And Micaiah was abused, he was arrested, and he was incarcerated. But the words he spoke were true. The battle was a disaster. Ahab died as seemingly someone randomly shot an arrow, but it hit right between the sections of his armor, and Ahab died on the field. That was not a coincidence. God's word is so relevant because it deals with what we are facing today. Christian, say what God has said. Be courageous. Stand on God's word. Don't cave to the pressure to conform or to compromise or to cower from the truth of what God has said. Because God's word, it may not be popular, it may not be politically correct, but it is true and it will always come to pass. You may be maligned, attacked, or persecuted, but know this, that God is with you and His approval is more important than appeasing the crowd. Thank you for joining the Word for 2022.